8,848 meters above sea level. The air up here holds only a third of the oxygen you're used to. Every breath feels like pulling air through a soaked cloth. The temperature drops to 30 below, and the wind peels the skin right off your face. Your heart beats like it's trying to break out of your chest. Your legs feel like they're made of lead, and your mind starts to drift. You can't tell anymore what's real and what's just a hallucination. This isn't a movie, it's Everest, the highest point on Earth and the deadliest place people willingly go. There are no predators here, no disease, no war. And yet, people die here, hundreds of them. More than 300 bodies rest on the slopes, frozen in place. They're not buried, they're not brought down. They simply stay, preserved by the cold, locked forever in their final position. Some sit against the rocks, others lie face down, a hand reaching out as if for something just out of reach. A few are still standing, frozen so solid that even death couldn't make them fall. Climbers use them as landmarks. Turn left after the Indian climber in the red jacket. Go down past the woman with long hair. Rest near the cave with the green boots. On Everest, tragedy has become part of the map. Among all those bodies, one name stands out: David Sharp, the man who made the world stop and ask an impossible question. Where does the dream end and madness begin? When do we cross the line between I can't help and I don't want to help? David was 34, an engineer from a small English town, quiet, modest, obsessed with mountains. He had tried twice to reach the summit and turned back both times. The third time was supposed to change everything. May 15th, 2006. Sharp sits in a small cave at 8,500 meters. He's still alive. He's breathing. He's conscious. He can speak. Dozens of climbers pass by. 40 people in a single day. Some stop. Some even talk to him. But no one brings him down. He dies there, slowly, in full view of the world. Alone, surrounded by people still chasing the summit he had already touched. This isn't a story about cruelty. It's about a place where humanity fades with every meter gained, where saving someone else means risking your own life, and where, above 8,000 meters, morality isn't a choice anymore. It's a luxury. Welcome to the top of the world, the place where people die standing. Spring of 2006. Everest is in the middle of a boom, a record number of expeditions, a record number of people willing to pay for a chance to touch the sky. The numbers sound insane, anywhere from $30,000 to $85,000 for a single climb. That's the price of a used car, or the down payment on an apartment. People spend that kind of money to spend 2 months in a tent at 7,000 meters, gasping for air with every step, risking everything for one photo on the summit. And guess what? The waiting list stretches for years. Commercial operators have turned Everest into a product, a packaged adventure. They promise safety. They promise guidance. They promise to get you to the top. Even if you've never held an ice axe in your life, all you need to do is pay. They'll take care of the rest. On the north side, the route from Tibet, more than 100 climbers gather that season. Picture it, 100 people on a path barely a meter wide, at an altitude where every step feels like a fight against gravity. You can't just go around someone. You can't stop for long. Every delay costs oxygen, and maybe your life. Base camp turns into a small city, hundreds of bright tents scattered across gray ice. Generators hum, radios crackle, Sherpas haul oxygen cylinders. Guides brief their clients. Yes, clients, not climbers anymore. While those clients sip coffee from thermoses and take selfies with the peaks behind them. This isn't an expedition anymore. It's an industry, a conveyor belt, a factory for Instagram stories. Every major company has its own team. Each team comes with guides, assistants, porters, oxygen reserves, radios, first aid kits, ropes. Everything planned and organized to the last detail. The route is marked in advance. The summit push has a fixed schedule. At 8,000 meters, in the so-called death zone, ropes are fixed along the route, hundreds of meters of line anchored to the rock. Climbers clip in and crawl upward like cars on a cable track, one after another, slowly, painfully slowly. Sometimes traffic jams form. Yes, traffic jams at 8,500 meters. 20 people waiting in line to climb a single rope up a narrow ledge. They freeze. They waste precious oxygen. They lose time. And on Everest, time isn't abstract. It's the line between making it down alive and becoming part of the mountain. But among all those climbers, the guided groups with radios, schedules, and backup plans, there's one man who does it differently. David Sharp doesn't buy a spot on a commercial expedition. He doesn't hire Sherpas. He doesn't take a guide. He registers with a company called Asian Trekking, just a formality to get the climbing permit. But in reality, he's going alone, completely alone. No support team, no climbing partner, no radio, no spare oxygen tanks waiting at the camps along the way. He has just one small cylinder, enough for maybe 2-3 hours of breathing, just enough to reach the summit if everything goes perfectly. Other climbers watch him with confusion, some with respect, some with pity. Guides shake their heads, Sherpas shrug. It's his third attempt. Twice before he turned back, twice he came home empty-handed. This time, he's all in. It's the summit, or nothing. He doesn't know it yet, but in a few days, his name will be known around the world. Who is this man who decides to climb to the roof of the world alone? David Sharp, 34 years old, from Houghton, a tiny village in northern England with fewer than 200 residents, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and life moves slowly, predictably, almost quietly. By education, he's an engineer. By profession, a manager at a security systems company, installing cameras, alarms, access controls, a steady office job, decent pay, nothing glamorous, nothing romantic. His colleagues describe him the same way, quiet, polite, reserved. He doesn't go to the pub after work. He doesn't tell stories or try to impress anyone. He shows up, does his job, and leaves. You probably know the type, but he has another life, one most people around him barely suspect. Every bit of free time, every weekend, every vacation, every spare pound, he spends in the mountains. Alone or with small groups, he heads off to climb. The Alps, the Andes, the Himalayas. He doesn't need company. He doesn't care about photos or bragging rights. What he needs is altitude. It's not a hobby, it's an obsession. By 2006, he's climbed dozens of serious peaks. He's summited Cho Oyu, the 8th highest mountain in the world, standing at over 8,000 meters. He's been on Gasherbrum in Pakistan, another 8,000er. He knows what thin air feels like. He knows frostbite. He knows what it means to look death in the face, and keep moving anyway. David isn't a tourist. He's a real mountaineer, experienced, technically skilled, physically strong, but there's something about him. Even in a group, he stays apart, watches more than he talks, keeps his plans to himself, never asks for advice. Friends say he's hard to get close to, kind but distant, as if there's a door inside him that no one is allowed to open. In 2003, David makes his first trip to Everest. He takes the northern route from the Tibetan side. He climbs as high as 8,300 meters, just 500 short of the summit. But the weather turns, and he decides to turn back. 2004, his second attempt. This time he climbs even higher, up to 8,500 meters. But again, something goes wrong. Maybe the oxygen runs out too soon. Maybe his body just can't take it anymore. Maybe his instincts whisper, not today. He turns back once more. For most people, 2 failed climbs would be a sign that maybe Everest isn't your mountain, that maybe it's time to stop, that life matters more than ambition. But not for David. He starts saving money again, keeps training, studies every detail of the route, analyzes what went wrong, prepares for a third attempt as if nothing else in the world matters. His parents worry. His mother begs him to stop. "Why do you have to do this?" she asks. David doesn't really answer, or says something that doesn't explain anything at all. "I just have to." His friends don't get it. His co-workers don't get it. But he doesn't need them to. He doesn't need anyone's approval. He needs the summit. It's not about fame. He doesn't post trip reports. He doesn't give interviews. He doesn't run a blog. He doesn't even have sponsors. Every expedition comes out of his own pocket, his modest manager's salary. For him, it's about something else. That deep inner need to prove something not to the world, but to himself. To know that he can, that he's worthy, that he's capable. Psychologists call it a limit test. The moment when a person goes beyond comfort into the unknown, not sure if they'll make it, but driven by the need to find out. For David, Everest is a mirror. When he looks at the mountain, he sees a question. Who are you, really? And he's ready to risk everything for the answer. Spring of 2006. he returns to Tibet. His third attempt, his last chance. No team, no backup, no plan B, just him in the mountain, one-on-one. But why does he go alone? Why turn down the help that others offer? David has a philosophy, strict, uncompromising. He calls it pure mountaineering. The idea is simple. If you want to truly conquer a mountain, you do it yourself. No tricks, no crutches, no army of helpers carrying your gear, fixing ropes, or guiding every step. Just you and the mountain. For David, commercial expeditions are a kind of lie. You pay the money, someone leads you by the hand, gives you oxygen, secures your path, and in the end, you stand on the summit with a flag. But it's not really your victory. It's the victory of the team you hired. You just bought a ticket to the ride. He wants something different. He wants honesty. If he reaches the top, it means he truly earned it. If he doesn't, it means he wasn't ready. No excuses, no half measures. In mountaineering, there's a term, alpine style. It means climbing fast and light, without fixed camps or supply lines. You carry only what you need and push for the summit in a single go. It's dangerous. It demands absolute preparation. But it's pure. The opposite is Himalayan style. That's when you set up a chain of camps, haul oxygen and supplies in advance, go up and down several times to acclimatize, and finally make a summit push on an established route. It's slower, safer, and far more expensive. David chooses something in between. Not exactly alpine style, too risky, even for him, but far from the heavy, supported Himalayan approach. No Sherpas. Sherpas are local Nepali and Tibetan climbers who move at high altitude as easily as most people walk on flat ground. Their bodies are built for thin air. They carry loads, set up camps, cook, fix ropes, and sometimes, quite literally, carry exhausted clients down on their backs. Without them, most commercial climbs would be impossible, but David refuses their help. He carries everything himself. No extra oxygen waiting at camps, no team standing by for rescue, no evacuation plan, no safety net, and, this is the most controversial part, he climbs almost without oxygen. At 8,000 meters, the air is so thin that each breath gives you only a third of the oxygen your body needs. Your brain begins to starve, cells start to die. Your heart races wildly, trying to keep you alive. People lose coordination, they forget where they're going, they see things that aren't there. Most climbers use bottled oxygen on Everest. It's not a luxury, it's survival. A cylinder gives you a clear head. It gives you a chance to make the right call when everything starts falling apart. It gives you a chance to live. But for purists, oxygen is a kind of doping. If you breathe from a bottle, you didn't really climb 8,000 meters. You cheated the mountain. David almost agrees with that philosophy. Almost. He takes one small bottle, just one. Enough for maybe 2 or 3 hours of breathing, a compromise. His plan is to climb without using it, like a true alpinist. But he keeps it as a last resort, for when things go wrong, for when he has no other choice. A safety net, a final backup. Sounds reasonable, right? Bring one emergency tank, just in case. But here's the problem. At 8,000 meters, just in case, doesn't come with a warning. It doesn't tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, it's time to use the oxygen. It hits you all at once. One moment you're fine, and the next, your body stops obeying. Or worse, your mind goes before you even realize it. Up there, the emergency always comes too fast, and too late. Experienced guides know this. If a climber says, I don't feel well at 8,000 meters, it means they're already in serious trouble. Because when you're at your limit, you rarely recognize it. One bottle is a gamble. It's a bet that everything will go perfectly, that the weather will hold, that your strength won't fail, that your body won't betray you. David is betting on himself, on his skill, on his preparation, on his will to keep going. May 13th, late evening. Base camp, 6,500 meters above sea level, is sinking into twilight. Most expeditions plan to start the next morning. Guides check the gear, Sherpas prepare the oxygen tanks. Clients try to sleep, though at this altitude, sleep isn't really rest. You don't recover, you just wait for dawn. But David doesn't wait. He leaves alone around 11 at night, into complete darkness. Only the narrow beam of his headlamp cutting through the cold. Only the sound of his own breathing. Only the crunch of snow under his boots. Why so early? Maybe he wants to avoid the crowd. Maybe he's counting on his own pace, slow but steady. Or maybe he simply can't wait any longer. third attempt. Now or never. The temperature drops to 30 below. The wind isn't strong, but it never stops, as if the mountain itself is breathing icy air right into your face. Each breath burns your lungs. Each exhale turns into a cloud of vapor that freezes instantly on your mask. The route follows the North Ridge, a mix of rock, ice, and snow ledges. Technically, it's not the hardest section of Everest, but above 8,000 meters, every rock becomes an obstacle. Every ridge feels like a wall. David moves slowly, painfully slowly. Up here, every step takes 3 or 4 breaths. You lift your foot, inhale, exhale, move it forward. Inhale, exhale, shift your weight, inhale, exhale. It's not walking anymore. It's a fight against gravity itself. Hours pass, David keeps climbing. 7,000 meters, 7.5, 8,000, the death zone. It's not a metaphor, it's a medical fact. Above 8,000 meters, the human body can't survive for long. It begins to die. Cells break down faster than they can recover. The brain loses neurons, muscles waste away. Blood thickens, the heart wears itself out. Every minute spent at this altitude takes something from you, something you'll never get back. David climbs without oxygen. He breathes what's there, thin, almost useless air. His blood oxygen level drops to the kind of numbers that would send doctors into a panic. At sea level, a person with that reading would be in intensive care. But David keeps going, step by step. The night passes, dawn begins to break. The sun rises over the Himalayas, one of the most breathtaking sights on Earth. The sky ignites in shades of orange, pink, and gold. The peaks glow like candles, but David probably doesn't see it. His focus has narrowed to a single thought: the next step. Everything else fades away. Did he reach the summit? No one knows. No one saw him at the top. There are no photos, no witnesses, no records. His camera was never found. Or maybe it simply didn't contain proof. Some believe he made it. Given his timing and experience, he could have reached the summit early on the morning of May 14th. Maybe he even saw the sunrise from the highest point on the planet. Alone. No witnesses, no flags, no triumph. Others think he turned back earlier, that his oxygen ran out too soon, that his strength gave out, that his instincts told him to stop and head down. The truth is, we'll never know. The summit doesn't hand out certificates. The mountain doesn't keep score. If you climb it alone, you're the only one who knows the truth. And the descent is always harder than the climb. When you're going up, adrenaline pushes you forward. The goal feels close. Your mind is sharp. You're driven. But once you turn back, everything changes. The euphoria fades. Exhaustion crashes over you like an avalanche. Your legs shake. Your head spins. You realize you've spent everything, and now you have to find a way down. Most deaths on Everest happen on the way back. Climbers reach the top, take the photo, and die on the descent. Not because they made a mistake, but because they simply ran out of strength. Sometime between 8 and 9 in the morning, on May 14th, other climbers start noticing David. He's coming down, slowly, painfully slowly. He stops, sits, tries to rest, and then he doesn't get up again. 8,500 meters above sea level, a small rocky ledge, a place climbers once called simply Green Boots. It's not the name of a route, it's a landmark, grim, haunting, but unmistakable. For years, a body lay here, inside a shallow cave, since 1996. A man in a bright ski jacket and neon green boots. His name was Tsewang Paljor, an Indian climber who died in a sudden storm with 2 teammates. His body remained here for almost 20 years. Face down, legs stretched toward the trail, those green boots visible from afar, pointing the way. They're gone now. The body was either removed or hidden, but the place remains, and so does the memory. Everyone who climbed the North Route passed by this spot. Everyone saw it, everyone knew it, green boots. Turn left, climb 50 meters, and you're almost there. Death had become a waypoint. Tragedy turned into part of the map. Sounds cynical? Maybe. But above 8,000 meters, cynicism becomes survival. You walk past the dead because you can't carry them down. You look at them because you can't close your eyes. You trip. You remember them because they show you the way. May 14th, around 9 in the morning, David Sharp sits down to rest beside that cave, right next to the man in the green boots. He takes off his pack, leans back against the rock, closes his eyes, breathes slow, ragged breaths. He's exhausted, completely spent. Maybe he plans to rest for 5 minutes and keep going. Maybe he just wants to catch his breath. Maybe he doesn't realize how bad things really are. Because up here, your brain lies to you. It says, you're fine, just rest for a minute. It doesn't say, you're dying, get up, now. Time passes, David doesn't move. The first group of climbers comes up the trail. They see him, sitting, motionless, but still alive. His breath forms small clouds in the frozen air. One of them stops, looks at him, maybe asks, "Are you okay?" Maybe doesn't. Maybe just knows. This man won't make it. And then he moves on, upward, toward the summit. Because at 8,500 meters, you have a choice. Save someone else or save yourself. And most choose the second. Not because they're cruel, but because they want to live. David stays there, alone, in the cave with the dead, on the edge of the world, somewhere between life and whatever comes after. The night of May 14th into the 15th, around 1 in the morning, a team from the Hymex expedition, one of the biggest commercial outfits on Everest, is making its way up the North Ridge. The leader is Russell Bryce, a legend of high-altitude climbing, tough, experienced, a man who knows Everest like his own backyard. And he knows exactly when to turn back. His team includes 12 clients, 4 guides, and 8 Sherpas. Everyone's on oxygen, everyone's roped in, everyone's moving on schedule. They pass the Green Boots cave, and then they see another figure, a man sitting against the rock, his head tilted down, hands resting on his knees. He doesn't wave, he doesn't call for help. He just sits there. One of the guides stops, shines his headlamp toward the figure. In the beam, he sees it. Faint puffs of vapor rising into the cold air. The man is breathing, still alive. The guide steps closer, the face is covered. Goggles, balaclava, he calls out. No response. He touches the man's shoulder. The body sways slightly like a mannequin. But it breathes, definitely breathes. The guide walks back to the group, a quick exchange over the radio. Russell Bryce makes the call fast. We keep moving, he's done for. And they go on. Past the cave, upward. They're not villains, not monsters. They're people who understand how things work up there. At 8,500 meters, if someone is sitting motionless, unresponsive, no longer able to move, you can't save them. Or rather, you could, in theory. But it would likely cost your own life. Imagine being at that altitude. Every step is an act of will. You have just enough strength to reach the summit and make it back. Your oxygen is timed to the minute. And then, you see someone who can't walk on their own. To bring them down, you'd need at least 4 people. You'd have to share your oxygen. You'd have to drag them down the ridge, which means using 3 times the energy, 3 times the oxygen, 3 times the time. It means you might not make it back. So the question isn't help or not help. The question is die together or survive alone. The Hymex group moves on. They keep climbing. Some of them reach the top. Others turn back. Bryce is strict and doesn't let anyone take unnecessary risks, but all of them come down alive. David stays where he is, in the dark, in the cold, alone. What happens to a person at 8,000 meters? Physiology takes over, simple and merciless. The brain gets only a third of the oxygen it needs. The cells in the cortex start dying. First, go higher functions: logic, planning, self-control, then memory and spatial awareness. Then even the basic reflexes begin to fade. Up there, your mind starts making decisions as if you're half asleep. Everything feels logical in the moment, but from the outside, it looks insane. One climber, on his way down, took off his gloves to untie a rope more easily. He forgot to put them back on, lost his fingers. He didn't even realize they were freezing. Another felt too hot, took off his jacket, sat down to rest, and froze to death in 20 minutes. A third, a woman, saw her husband, who had died on the same slope a year earlier. She spoke to him, then lay down beside him, and never got up. These aren't metaphors. They're real documented cases, medically explainable. At 8,000 meters, you stop being yourself. Your body becomes a survival machine, shutting down everything unnecessary. Empathy, unnecessary. Compassion, unnecessary. Logic, optional. Only one instinct remains: breathe, move, survive. Even if you're a good person, even if you've spent your life helping others. Even if you're a doctor, a rescuer, an athlete, it doesn't matter. Up there, your brain rewrites the hierarchy, and at the top of it is one word: me. It's not selfishness, it's biology. The climbers who passed David that night weren't consciously choosing to leave him to die. They just kept moving. Because stopping meant death, helping meant risk. Their own bodies screamed at them, keep going, don't stop, or you're next. The mountain erases the line between can't help and won't help. At the limit of human endurance, those two things become the same. And the worst part? The people who passed him knew it. They knew they were leaving a man behind. They saw that he was still alive. But they also knew that any rescue attempt could turn one tragedy into 2, or 3, or 5. It's not a justification. It's an explanation. Morning of May 15th. Dawn paints the slopes of Everest in gold. New groups begin their push toward the summit. The season is in full swing, the route is crowded with climbers, and every one of them passes the Green Boots cave. Every one of them sees David. He's still sitting there, still breathing, but he can no longer speak, no longer move. His head has fallen to the side. His arms hang lifelessly at his sides. A Turkish expedition stops nearby. They have their own emergency. One of their climbers is showing signs of cerebral edema, his brain beginning to swell from the altitude. But they see David. Someone makes a decision. Give him oxygen. They remove one of their spare bottles, attach the mask to his face, and turn it on. Precious oxygen begins to flow into his lungs. For a few minutes, David comes back. He opens his eyes, tries to say something. His lips move, but no words come out. The Turkish team can't stay. They have a sick teammate who needs to be brought down, fast, or they'll lose him too. They leave the oxygen bottle. It's enough for maybe an hour. Then they continue their descent. It's all they can do. Another group passes, then another. Some stop for a moment. Some just look and move on. A few take photos, not of David, but of the route, the view, themselves. But he ends up in the frame, a figure against the rock, part of the landscape. Later that morning, Lebanese climber Maxime Chaya reaches the spot. He's one of the few who actually stops. He sits down beside David and tries to talk to him. David is still alive. He opens his eyes. He knows someone is there. Maxime asks, "What's your name? Where are you from?" David answers slowly, painfully. "My name is David Sharp. I'm with Asian Trekking." Those are the last words anyone will ever hear from him. Maxime understands. There's nothing more he can do. David is too weak. He's been sitting too long. His body is shutting down. Hypothermia, dehydration, brain swelling, all of it at once. Maxime is a man of faith. He stays beside him for a few minutes in silence. Maybe praying, maybe searching for an answer, maybe just not wanting to leave a man alone at the end. Then he stands up and walks away. Because staying any longer would mean dying there too. Over the course of a single day, about 40 people pass by David Sharp. 40. Some stop, some don't. Some try to help, some just look. But no one saves him. Because at 8,500 meters, rescue isn't a question of morality. It's a question of physics. And physics says, if you can't walk on your own, you stay here forever. When news of David Sharp's death reaches the world below, the mountaineering community explodes. The press seizes the story. Headlines scream, 40 climbers walked past a dying man. Everest has become a soulless conveyor belt. Mountaineers left a Briton to freeze for a selfie at the summit. The debate rages for weeks. The climbing world splits in two. Some call it cowardice, selfishness, moral failure. Others insist this is just how high-altitude climbing works. And some stay silent because they've been there themselves and know just how impossible that choice really is. And what happens to the industry? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Commercial companies keep selling Everest packages. Prices range from $30,000 to $100,000 a climb. Demand doesn't drop. It grows. Every season, hundreds of people head for the mountain. Many of them aren't climbers at all. They're clients, people buying a dream. Everest becomes a brand, a status symbol, a check mark on a life list. I stood on the roof of the world. Never mind that you were clipped to a rope, breathing bottled oxygen, following Sherpas who carried your pack and fixed the lines. Never mind that you stepped past someone dying. What matters is that you made it to the top. The mountain hasn't changed. People haven't either. David Sharp's story became just another tragic footnote in Everest's long list of the dead. His name is remembered, but the lesson wasn't learned. Because on Everest, the price isn't paid only in money, it's paid in conscience, and many are willing to pay that price. But let's return to the question that haunts everyone. Could David Sharp have been saved? Technically, maybe. Theoretically, yes. Practically, almost never. Here's what saving someone at 8,500 meters actually means. It does not mean getting them on their feet and walking them down. At that altitude, a person who can't move on their own is dead weight, literally. The average climber with gear weighs around 80 to 90 kilograms. Now imagine dragging that mass down an icy slope in air so thin that every step feels like a fight. Your lungs are on fire, your heart is hammering out of your chest. You can barely stand yourself. One person can't do it. Two people can't do it. You need a team, at least 10 to 15 climbers, ideally 20. Strong, experienced, and willing to risk their lives. You need oxygen, a lot of oxygen. Several bottles for the victim, another bottle for each rescuer. In total, dozens of cylinders, each weighing several kilos, each of them hauled upward to a place where breathing already feels impossible. You need time. Getting a dying person down would take not hours but days. And you don't have days. You have a handful of hours before night falls, before a storm rolls in, before your own body starts to shut down. Most of all, you need the willingness to gamble with your life. Every rescuer faces real danger: frostbite, exhaustion, cerebral edema, a fall. Any one of those can kill. Rescues on Everest do happen, rarely, very rarely, and almost always below 8,000 meters. Down there, there's a little more air. You can sometimes move without oxygen. Helicopters can still work. Above 8,000, that's the death zone. Helicopters don't fly. The air is too thin. The human body is quietly shutting down. Up there, everyone is on their own. There are exceptions. In the same year, David Sharp died, 2006. Australian climber Lincoln Hall was saved. He was found around 8,700 meters, unresponsive, believed to be dead. The Hymex team came back for him. 6 climbers hauled him down for more than 10 hours. They brought him back. It was a miracle, and it came at a tremendous cost. One rescuer suffered severe frostbite. Another barely survived himself. David Sharp was found at night, in the dark, at an altitude where rescue is almost impossible. He had no team, no one responsible for him, no backup, no radio. He was completely alone. By the time the first climbers saw him, he had already been sitting motionless for hours. Hypothermia had gone too far. His brain was shutting down. Even if someone had managed to lift him up, he wouldn't have been able to walk. They would have had to carry him, and that would mean risking 10 lives for one, a life that, by then, was already slipping away. Cruel, yes, unfair, probably, but that's the reality of the mountain. On Everest, rescues are rare, and almost always they come too late. So, where is the line? Where does mountaineering end and simple survival begin? Some say that if you're not willing to help someone dying, you're not a climber. You're a tourist, a customer buying your summit. True mountaineering, they say, isn't just about reaching the top. It's about responsibility, about being ready to sacrifice your dream to save another life. Others disagree. They say if you can't see reality for what it is, you're not a climber, you're a romantic. At 8,000 meters, there's no room for heroism, only physics and biology. You either survive or you don't. Leave the moral debates for the valley. Everest has become the battleground between these two philosophies. On one side, the old school, those who remember when only a handful of people reached the summit, when it was a test of spirit, not a checkbox for social media. For them, climbing is a journey inward, not a victory over the mountain, but over one's own weakness. On the other, the new industry, commercial expeditions, lines on the route, hundreds of people paying tens of thousands of dollars for the right to say, "I've been there." For them, Everest is a service. You pay, they take you up. You get tired, they give you oxygen. You weaken, they help you down. But if someone else is in trouble, sorry, that's not part of the package. The story of David Sharp became a symbol, a reminder that the summit doesn't make you a better person. It makes you a more honest one. It strips away the mask and shows who you really are when the choice is between your life and someone else's. On the mountain, you don't face nature. you face yourself. And sometimes you don't like what you see. Maxim Chaya, the Lebanese climber who sat beside David in his final moments, later said in an interview, "I prayed for him. I couldn't save him, but I could stay, just to be there so he wouldn't die alone. That was all I could do, and it was the only thing that mattered." Some would call that weakness, others, humanity. But on Everest, those two words start to blur. Because up there, you stop being a hero or a coward. You're just a person, small, fragile, mortal. Everest isn't a school of courage. It's a mirror, and it doesn't reflect your strength, it reflects your truth. Everest is a graveyard of dreams, ambitions, and hopes. Every body on its slopes is someone's choice. Someone climbed without oxygen. Someone got stuck in a traffic jam near the summit. Someone started their descent too late. Someone simply ran out of strength. David Sharp is just one name among hundreds. Not the first, not the last. But his story became a symbol, because people saw him alive, because dozens walked past him, because maybe, just maybe, he could have been saved. Or maybe not. We'll never know. David's body remained in the Green Boots cave for several years. Later, Sherpas moved it, at his family's request. They say it now rests somewhere in a crevice, away from the trail. But no one knows for sure. The mountain keeps its secrets. And every year, new people climb that mountain, knowing all of this, knowing about the bodies, the risks, the deaths that wait above the clouds. They go anyway. Why? For what? Knowing that hundreds have died on those slopes, knowing that at the summit you can freeze solid in minutes, knowing that help may never come, that if you fall, no one will lift you up, that if you grow weak, you'll be left behind. What could possibly be worth it? Some say it's for glory, to be able to say, "I stood on top of the world," to post the photo, to get the applause, to prove to others, maybe to yourself, that you're capable of more. Others say it's for something deeper, for that moment when you stand at the summit and look down, when you realize, I did it. I fought through pain, cold, fear. I made it. I didn't give up. Reinhold Messner, the legend who became the first to climb all 14 of the world's 8,000ers, once said, "Mountains aren't there to be conquered. They're there so we can conquer ourselves." And maybe that's the truest answer there is. Everest is a mirror. You look into it and see your real self. No filters, no masks, strong or weak, brave or afraid. The one who helps or the one who walks past. Everyone who climbs carries their own reason. Some go to escape the past, some to find meaning, some just to feel alive again. And some because, as the old saying goes, the mountain is there. It stands, it waits. It doesn't ask you to come, but you go anyway. The problem is, the higher you climb, the further you drift from what makes you human. Compassion, kindness, the urge to help. Above 8,000 meters, all of that fades. What's left is instinct, fear, and the single burning desire to survive. And that's the paradox. You go up the mountain to become something greater, to prove yourself, to be the hero of your own story. But when you come back, if you come back, you realize you walked past someone dying. You chose the summit over a life. You didn't rise above yourself. You came back smaller. Sir Edmund Hillary, the first man to stand on Everest back in 1953, once said, "It's not the mountain we conquer, but ourselves." But he climbed in a different time, when there were only a handful of people on the slopes, when there were no commercial tours, no traffic jams on the route, no summit selfies. Today, Everest is something else. A conveyor belt, a business, a line of people chasing a dream, and somewhere along the way, forgetting why they started. And yet, they keep going. Every year, every spring, when the weather window opens, hundreds of climbers queue up for the summit. They wait for hours, freezing, gasping for air, losing strength, but they keep moving. Because the top is so close. Because they've spent too much, money, time, hope. Because turning back feels impossible. At the summit, you don't conquer the mountain. You can't. It was here millions of years before you, and it'll stand millions more after you're gone. You're just a dot on its face, tiny, temporary, mortal. What you conquer is yourself. And sometimes, when you finally reach the top, you realize you don't like what you've become along the way. Somewhere on those slopes still lingers the story of David Sharp, the man who climbed toward the sky and never came back. A story about how sometimes a dream can cost too much. If this story resonates with you, leave a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and thank you for watching.